when you're fear. There's no easy way to hear. And all the memories you love to bring, with all the things that you hate to scream. So tell me, I'm hollow on the inside. There's no trying to hide from this monster inside me. So if you try to criticize me, like the world defines me, image of what I have become.
Before we get into the Browns stuff, today it was announced the college football playoff format, I guess you could say, the seeding. And Derek, there's a lot of controversy with it. Certainly, let me say this, it's a lot better than what it was when it was just 4 teams. I think everybody can agree on that. But Derek, I've got some major issues with the college football bracket that I wanted to talk about today. But before I get into my thoughts and opinions about it, Derek, your initial thoughts on looking at the bracket currently as it sits.
It's interesting to see how the committee rewarded certain teams. You brought it up before we hit record. I don't want to steal it, but they rewarded Penn State. Some of these teams, and the one whole side of the bracket is, to me, and this is not supposed to sound disrespectful, it's just my interpretation of it, seems very easy. Seems very easy for a handful of teams, and that's not a shot. But Tristan, if I were to tell you, or let me rephrase, if this were still the 4-team playoff, or is anybody going to sit here and tell me that Arizona State and Boise State would be in the top 4? My money's on no. And frankly, I'm shocked with Bama. That's kind of what I wanted to touch on here real quick. Not that Bama should have been in the playoff. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, historically, we have seen this college football playoff structure set up so that the brands get in. And you've heard people in the past say it is the Alabama Invitational. And for me, I think Bama is not what they were, obviously. But I am shocked that they actually had the balls to put SMU in there at 12. And I could argue the same for Miami. Miami was one of those teams on the bubble too. So good that they gave some of these smaller schools the attention. They put them in, they gave them a chance. But Tristan, maybe it's just me, but I think this the bracket is a little bit one-sided. That's just me.
Yeah, well said. And I'm going to pick it up where you left it off. Alabama absolutely should have been in the college football playoff. I will argue this to death. For starters, SMU is the 11th ranked team, Derek. Clemson, who beat them, is the 12th team. You're right. That's
apologize.
That's absurd. And I'm sorry, but SMU had a good season, did not deserve to be in over Bama. And here's why. It's not just about record. It is about who they faced. Alabama played. Let me start here by saying this. Alabama had beaten the number 2 ranked team in this same bracket. SMU hasn't had a single top 25 victory. Not a single one. The 2 hardest opponents that they faced all year, they lost to. So that's for starters, right? Bama played more top 25 teams. They had way more impressive wins at the top end. And let's face it, the ACC this year was not that great. It was not good. It was not strong. In my opinion, I think the ACC should have only had one team in the playoff this year, and it would have been their winner. And I think that would have been Clemson. I'm not going to sit here and say I feel bad for Alabama. Absolutely not. You know, that's a huge program that has been to multiple national championships, won many of them. they've had a lot of opportunities, and I am happy for SMU, and I will root for them absolutely. But at the same time, I when we look at it strictly from who are the best 12 teams in the nation, they didn't put in the best 12 teams in the nation, and that I feel like is an injustice to what this is supposed to be in terms of competitive sport. Um, that's where kind of I feel about that. And I get keeping out Miami because you can look at our video on the quarterbacks for this upcoming draft. My opinions on Cam Ward. I said if Miami makes it, they'll get exposed. They couldn't even make it, so they had a terrible finish to the year. They did not have a strong enough schedule. Completely warranted to leave them out. Completely warranted, in my opinion. But yeah, that was my first bit. The other thing was, and Derek, this is what you were hinting at earlier. Penn State lost the Big Ten championship and got rewarded for it. Oregon, sure, they get the bye. Great. But they're going to play the winner of Ohio State versus Tennessee. Versus Penn State, they're playing SMU, who just snuck in. They're going to play Boise, who I feel like if they don't beat Boise, that's embarrassing, and James Franklin needs to be fired. Just two completely different size programs. There's levels to it. And if they get to the semifinal, which they should, they'll likely either be playing Georgia, or they will be playing either Georgia, Notre Dame, or Indiana. And of those three teams, I mean, I probably would assume Georgia. But again, like, none of those three teams themselves this year had a great year. Like, Georgia almost lost to Georgia Tech. Took them into 8 overtimes to beat Georgia Tech. They did not have an impressive year at all.
And it's arguable that they did lose to Georgia Tech. That is the craziest part.
Exactly. So, and Georgia just had a not great, not dominant year.
Mm-hmm.
That was my other issue. Versus Oregon, who is going to have to play the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee. And then when they get to that semifinal, they're playing, I would assume, Texas, which coming into the year, I mean, those three teams, you would have put right up there to win the thing. And at multiple points throughout the year, you would have put those three teams up there to win the thing. That's where I have the biggest issue with this, is Oregon had a stellar season, didn't lose a single game, played many tough opponents, and they get thrown under the bus like this. It's BS. And I'm sorry, there's no way in hell Ohio State is the 8th ranked team in the nation. It's not. Like, they are not the 8th ranked team in the nation. I know, Derek, you have your own personal opinions about Ohio State. You'll feel it's justified. But if we're looking at it strictly from taking a step back, viewing it big picture, Ohio State, at a minimum in this setup, is the 5 seed. 5 or 6. They absolutely don't deserve to be behind Penn State, because head-to-head should matter. They beat Penn State, right? They beat Indiana, the number 10 team, in dominant fashion. I just don't see how you can justify having Ohio State 8. Like, yeah, I get it. They have 2 losses. One of them's against number 1 Oregon, right? Come on. That's... I have so many issues with the format. The only team that I have an issue not getting in was Alabama, just because I feel like they are absolutely one of the 12 best teams in the nation. I don't even have an issue with the buys, right? I really don't. I know a lot of people do. I get it. You have to make the conference championship game important, and you have to make it matter. I get that. And that's why I'm not upset with 1 through 4. I'm upset with 8 through 12. 5 through 12. That's where I'm upset with how this was all seeded.
Yeah, it's it's interesting because this is it. It looked weird even on the TV, right? Because we've been used to 4, and I was of the opinion just go to 8, right, or 6. You don't need to go all the way to 12. But if you are gonna go to 12, I think, get in the dance and let's see what happens. I mean, Boise, Arizona State, I know they were higher, but still smaller schools. SMU getting in there, right? And Clemson, you mentioned Clemson. Don't sleep on them. That game, that Texas Clemson game, I think is arguably the best game of the playoff first round, because Klubnik and Clemson can go in there and can upset them. They can. Texas is great. Don't get me wrong. I think Texas is a really good football team, but there's certainly the risk there. And touching on the school down the street, don't be surprised, and I don't say this out of resentment or anger or whatever, but I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if Tennessee walked into Columbus and pulled off a upset over Ohio State. And I could argue it's not even an upset. That defense is good. Tennessee is a good football team. Are they great? Are they perfect? Are they elite? No. But listen, we're going to get into it deeper at some point later, but let's call spade a spade. Ryan Day against the SEC, not great. Not great. And I understand he's quite literally coaching for his job. But if you gauge my confidence on Ryan Day heading up Tennessee, no. I personally, I don't have a whole lot of confidence. Do I think we could win? Absolutely. And then you go against Oregon again. And I understand that game was close. But Tristan, when Ohio State lost to Oregon, I said I'm concerned because of major issues that I saw in that game. Those issues have remained. And nothing tells me right now that if Ohio State were to play Oregon again today, that those issues would change. And I could dive into Michigan. I'm not going to, other than this. The problem that Ohio State had against Michigan is a lot due to how the game is dictated. And Joel Klatt did a great job of explaining this and bringing this up. Michigan came in and forced Ohio State to play their game of football. And even though they don't have the guys up front anymore and they don't have Blake Corum and prime Donovan Edwards, they came in and they ran the ball. They came in, they ran the ball, they did what they did, and it was just enough to get by. But what did we do? Ohio State shit the bed. You did not change up the game plan. Ohio State has dominated through the air. But Ryan Day, his ego is so hurt by the physical comments that you thought it was a good idea to come in and run the ball against 2 first-round draft picks in the middle. Makes no sense. None at all. And if you ask me what to expect against Tennessee, I would expect more of a guy who cannot handle criticism against an SEC school. So, sure, Ohio State has played great all year, and for the most part, and they are very talented. But you gotta pay attention to things. And for me, Tristan, I don't know. That Notre Dame Indiana game though, that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you, Derek. And I'll lightly touch on Ohio State here, Derek. I think this goes without being said. Only way Ryan Day keeps his job is if he wins the national championship, you could argue, and I know a lot of people will. You probably will share that opinion. He should be fired regardless. But yeah, listen, he has to beat Tennessee. Has to happen. Because listen, Ohio State, without a doubt, more talented team, not even close in my opinion, even though I think Tennessee's a very, very, very talented football team. I can't see a way that Ryan Day can go back to the state of Ohio if he loses that game. Like, he will get, like, I know this is in Ohio. You'll have Ohio State like fans storming the field to carry him out and throw him over the border into Michigan. Like, I'm not kidding. That will happen. They will carry him however many miles it is to the state line. They'll throw him to the other side and they'll say, "Don't come back." like he doesn't get to clear out his house. He doesn't get to clear out his desk at work. No, he leaves it all behind. He starts fresh. So
hey man, he's not a college coach. I hate to say that, but it's just a reality. He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit the culture. It worked for a little bit, but it fell apart. Like,
and here's the thing. Like, I actually think Ryan Day could be a successful head coach at the next level. I do think he, in terms of offensive scheme, there's a lot that he does that is nice and is good. Yeah, I just think Ohio State's, it's too much for him. It's too much, and that's okay to say that. Like, it's the same thing with like Kyle McCord, right? I know you don't want to rip open that scab, right? But like Kyle McCord, like he's a solid college quarterback, but Ohio State he's just not good enough for. I think like
could argue the same for Will Howard. I don't want to say it.
I was going to say it, but I wasn't going to say it, but I was thinking it. But yeah, you could argue the same. It's just I think that it speaks a lot of volumes that Ryan Day decided to work closer with the defense. The defense got better and the offense got worse. What does that say about your culture? I think that for me is, and that's just, for me, it shows that it's just too much for him. He can't balance it. And when you're managing a program like Ohio State that every single season has the expectation to win the Big Ten and win the national championship, and that's the expectation, that's the standard, you got to have the best. And it's just not there. Personally, I think I would like to see Mike Vrabel take that job. I think that would be really, really exciting. Him or Dan Lanning. I think I would try my best to see Dan Lanning from Oregon.
Dude, I don't care what I would have to do. Like, Dan Lanning would be perfect. I know there's a lot of people that don't like him, but dude, I'm telling you, that guy is the next killer.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the same way as a Saban or a Belichick or a whatever, but he's a stone cold killer.
Yeah. Guy knows how to win. So, he showed this year, especially, that a lot of things changed, and he found his way to get his team to the top. And I don't even think it's been close. I think in terms of the best teams in the nation, it's clearly Oregon at 1, and there's a gap between 1 and 2. I don't even care what you rank 2 or 3 or 4. Like, it's a gap. But yeah, I just, I find it weird how this whole college football bracket played out. Trust me, I'm going to be so excited to watch these games. It's going to be really, really fun. And seriously, it cannot come soon enough. And I mean, I can't remember the schedule of the games, but I will be out of college here. Next week is my finals week. So trust me, I will be watching a lot of college football, doing a lot of film study on prospects for the upcoming draft. I cannot wait, Derek. It's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to talk about it. And I can't wait to talk about the future of the Cleveland Browns when that conversation is going to come. But let's talk about the Cleveland Browns right now.